responding to the community. There's actually a text that I send out to the community. It's a community text, and so it is that time. It is time for the weekly power rankings, and I have to preface that. Oh, wait a minute. I'll be.
I was going to say, the heat's not in the building. I feel like it's a little warm for that game day top, in addition to what you're supposed to be wearing right now. There's a lot of people out there who think blue looks good on you this week.
All right, so much to talk about before I break out in hives. Because the person, thank you very much. So for those of you that are wondering what's going on, last week, 3 weeks ago actually, I had said that if Waterford were to win 3 in a row, 2 games that they were supposed to win, and in that big showdown with Ledger, that I would do the power rankings wearing a Waterford blue. I was given a Ledger strength workout T-shirt that if they had won that game, I was going to wear, but Waterford did, so here I am. And I just want to say it was surreal to me that when I walked on the field, the first 5 comments to me from coaches, players, and fans were, to summarize, can't wait to see you in blue come Tuesday. So in all seriousness, an incredible amount of love and thank you to all of the people out there who are embracing this content and these power rankings. My son was on the sidelines of the Bacon Academy New London game, and when they lost the game, Bacon Academy lost the game, one of the Bacon kids turned to him and said, man, I wonder how far we're going to drop in the power rankings. Like, I appreciate that you guys are thinking about these things, clearly more than maybe I am. But to the community who reaches out to me and says, hey, I can't wait for the content, where's this team going to go? Where's that team going to go? Thank you. I do appreciate it. And it's the only I'm true to my word. So I will say this. Each week, I will definitely put a challenge out there. If there's a team that, rises to the challenge and you want me to sport your gear off of our game of the week, I will absolutely do that, and then maybe even outside of our game of the week. But I'm all about responding to the community's wishes. You ready to go for our 10?
Yeah, we've got a couple teams going into this week looking to extend a winning streak.
So I looked into the Magic crystal ball, the game day crystal ball, and the theme of this past week's games, is like an 80s boy band. It was bye, bye, bye. Everybody was on a bye this week. There were 2 games, and they both had significance towards these power rankings. So what we're going to do this week, as I go through my top 10, is I'm going to give you my top 10 power rankings with an adjective that I think describes this particular team right now, in the moment where they are today. So no surprise to anyone. We start off at number 1, and the word is complete. This is a complete football team. They are the defending state champions. We've seen them score touchdowns on defense, on offense, on special teams. We've seen them defeat some very good out-of-state and in-state. They can throw it. They can run it. This is a complete football team. Big game this week with Massac. If they want to continue to remind people around the state of where they are, they've got to win this game. But this is a complete team in Killingly.
You got to figure that whether they want to say it on the record or not, this is the biggest game of their season for them. Not to put down any of their other ECC opponents, but from what we've seen so far, Killingly should run their conference schedule. Mm-hmm. And I think we saw at the beginning of the year that Hendricken and Massac should be the 2 big challenges for them. Massac, I think, a 500 team, but losses to 2 top 10 teams.
Yeah, maybe even 2 top 5 teams, depending on how you look at those rankings. They're a good team. Killingly off the bye, is that helpful, right? Were they Were they banged up and in need of some rest? Was there a game plan that they wanted to put into place that they got extra time to do? I mean, I think from a strategic and health perspective, the bye could not have come at a better time for them. But there's also some people like a team that's going to be dropping down you'll see here in a second, that said the bye week was not at a good time for them because they were healthy, and all it did was stall the momentum that they had going in. So how will Killingly respond to the bye? We're going to find out this week. So the team I mentioned that lost coming out of their bye is Bacon. So they are no longer at number 2. The team at number 2, the word to describe them is scary, and that is the Griswold Wolverines, who we will see live this Friday on game day with Bacon Academy there. Why are they scary? Well, after I watched Ledyard Friday night, the fact that that team shut them out is scary. The fact that they have the discipline, physicality, and playmakers on defense to shut out a Ledyard team is scary. We know offensively they're scary with Nick Coolwaters and Aiden Cutter and Millsy throwing them the ball. They threw 47 up on Woodstock, and this team is scary. And I think Bacon, off of a tough loss, that's a tough spot for them to go to this week at Griswold.
Now we have to do, or you have to do, some sort of mental gymnastics here because Griswold plays in Division III in the ECC, and so are not going to be having head-to-head matchups other than Killingly, right, with Division I schools. So it's a little bit hard to say how does a 3-1 Griswold in Division III compare to a 3-1 Fitch or a 2-2 East Lyme.
Correct.
In Division I.
So a reminder, because looking at last week's rankings, I had a lot of people go, how is Fitch behind Bacon and Griswold? Again, this is not a top 10 of what I think are the 10 best teams, the 10 most talented teams, or an indication of who I think would beat whom. So Bacon 2, Griswold 3 there, and last week's ranking does not mean I think they would beat Fitch. What it is the ranking of how well you're doing versus the potential that your schedule allows you to do. So last week, Bacon was the only other undefeated team. The best they could be was 3-0, and they were. And they had the second best point differential, so you could argue they couldn't have done any better within what their schedule allowed. Griswold's only loss week 1 to a very good Seymour team. Fitch's loss at Amity. You'll see losses definitely play into where you move around, but it's really more about how good are you doing compared to the schedule and what you could be doing.
And so one of our Griswold fans in the chat pointing out that they also are going to play East Lyme later in the season. And that's one that I've had circled since the beginning of the year because if they go out and challenge Killingly, beat Killingly, obviously that will say a lot about that team. You figure Killingly is probably the favorite in that.
Sure.
I don't know how to pick in a East Lyme Griswold matchup. Mm-hmm. And so that game, I think maybe 4 weeks or so from now, will say a lot about both teams, but especially a lot about Griswold.
I couldn't agree with you more. Your number 3 team, moving up from 4, they're intriguing. The Fitch Falcons. Why are they intriguing? Well, we saw them off of a very good win against East Lyme. They'll be adding Caden Simons-Gaskin to the fold as both an offensive and defensive player. They are coming off of a bye, which means he will be fully incorporated into their team on both sides. And if you talk to Coach Mike Ellis and you just watch them play, there's a lot of meat left on that bone. They have been their own worst enemies with a lot of penalties and a lot of mistakes, which I think you can forgive them, and we're going to talk about them and the next team in the same vein, which is you can forgive them because they overcame injuries to star players, players who they thought were going to be on the team that weren't. They had to replace their quarterback and their best running back before the season started. That's a lot to ask. And they lost a very tough road game at Amity, which is not an easy place to go to or find. And so, I think if you look at their schedule, now it's about what's in front of you. And it starts this week for them, NFA, right? They beat East Lyme. They've got to beat NFA in order to maintain sort of their trajectory, as it were. But this team is very intriguing to me.
And as much as people might say or think that these power rankings matter, what really matters to most of these teams is, do we get in the playoffs?
Correct.
And Fitch playing in Class M, I believe, playing a tougher ECC Division I schedule, playing some of those tougher alliance games, they can't afford to finish the season with 3 losses.
That's correct.
If they're trying to get into the playoffs. So,
and keep in mind, the world's much bigger than the ECC. Killingly, for example, right now is not even the number 1 ranked school from a point standpoint in Double S. That's Nanawag. So, just because you're undefeated and doing well or you're playing well, you got to pay attention to what's around you. And the only thing you can control is your own game in front of you.
Yeah, and they're going to have a bunch of challenging games, and if they come through that out the other side with only 1 or 2 losses, that's an intriguing playoff team.
And not for nothing, that Thanksgiving Day game is not going to be an easy game. If that's a game they need to win to get in, that Ledyard on Thanksgiving is not going to be an easy game, because that Ledyard team, they're going to compete. So that game might be an hour and 15 minutes long. So let's consider that aspect of it as well. So coming in at number 4 this week, I'm wearing them. The word evolving. I have given a lot of thought to what we saw Friday night. The good, the bad, what to make of it. On a positive note, I think Lucas Rasicot has shown himself to be a really talented thrower of the football, and he led that team to a come from behind victory that was improbable. Chase Nolda has shown himself, with no wide receiver experience, to be a really reputable, safe, good target for Rasicot. We already knew Spencer was dynamic. The other wideouts showed some big play capability. Omar running the football, the defense stepped up when it needed to. So this team is evolving. They did it without 3 starters on the offensive line. They came back from a 2-touchdown deficit. They did it on the road. They did it against a really good team. All of that is remarkable. They still had 100 yards of bad penalties. They still had too many mistakes. And if it wasn't for a gift early from Ledyard, may have been 2 touchdowns down before they blinked. I'm going to say this was 95% a positive thing for them, right? You went on the road against a good team. You won the game. You forced me to wear this itchy sweatshirt. But we said earlier in the year, they can't beat good teams until they clean it up. They beat a good team, but I think they'd be the first to tell you they can't beat elite teams. They're not beating Killingly unless they clean it up a lot more than they did.
And I think I said early in the season that this is one of the teams with the highest ceilings in the ECC. But if you play the what-if game, they won that game by 1 thanks to a mistake that gave them 2 points. So there's a lot of other what-ifs in there also. What if someone else had been starting on offense? What if some of our injured players had been back in there? So their potential is up there. They haven't quite hit that yet. And when and if they do, that's a scary team to face.
I think that's exactly right and well said. And I want to, everyone's talking about the Scient sensational play of the week, the Haffey touchdown, which was a huge play. I think the biggest play that Haffey made on the game was the one-on-one tackle on the 2-point conversion, because had that 2-point conversion been successful, then they would have had to make a choice between trying to tie the game or going for 2 to win it themselves. The whole complexion of the game, as far as all they needed to do was score to win, changed because of that tackle on that previous 2-point conversion, and I thought that was a huge play.
And there was a bunch of other pretty special, amazing individual efforts that certainly were in consideration for that sensational play. Chase Nolda shedding 3 guys at the goal line who were
Would you believe he's never played wide receiver? I mean, he looks like he's going to be a weapon for him.
Yeah. I mean, on the other side, Jackson Favory picking apart the defense on some of those runs. So it was a game full of sensational plays for sure.
My number 5 team, moving up from number 7, are the East Lyme Vikings off of their bye. And the word is confounding because I still don't know what the heck to make of them. The talk amongst the coaches that I've talked to, the talk amongst the people that I've talked to is that there's a lot of talent there. They like what Coach Klein is doing as far as they're heading in the right direction. Like, a lot of people like them, but their games have been so strange as far as they've played either very bad teams or very good teams. So it's kind of hard to get a read on them. This week will be a very interesting one because they're going to be playing New London, fresh off of a victory in the Whalers. And I'm thinking East Lyme's thinking this is a game we need to win, right? So
on East Lyme, I'm guaranteed those guys are remembering a 50-point loss last year versus New London.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to – that's another thing that they're not going to come out and say, but I'm certain they remember that and are not going to want to let that happen again.
I think the most asked question that I get regarding East Lyme is, hey, how good is East Lyme? And I mean, I don't have an answer yet. Like, I don't know. That's why they're confounding. It's good quarterback, good running backs, good wide receiver, seem physical, some playmakers on defense. Like, I just don't know yet. They're as much a function of the schedule as anybody. Moving up, or I should say dropping down to number 6, or in this case, staying right where they were at number 6, the substantial is the word I use to describe Ledyard, and here's why. Lost in their loss was that they were also playing without Calvin Casavant, who was out for the year. Favory did not run the football in the second half of that game. He was on the sideline offensively. And Streckfus came back and did a great job. But they're also overcoming injuries to key players. And in the middle of that game, they had to adjust on the fly. This is a good team. This is a physical team. This is a team that I think is going to give you a reputable battle every single week. It is not. They are going to roll over some teams. I think they're going to look at this game as one that they gave away, mistakes that they made in crucial times. I think Coach Siricchio is probably pulling out his beard hair because he's like me. But I think this is one where he knows that they've got better days ahead. Looking at their roster, I mentioned it. They're so young. They're so young. They're going to make these kinds of mistakes. It's a young roster. They're only going to get better. But right now, this is a substantial team.
And let's not forget that you had them at number 2 a couple weeks ago?
That's right.
And maybe that was overrating them a little bit. I wonder if this is underrating them a little bit as far as where they end up at the end of the season. I mean, the question is based on results at the expense of who would you move them up? So maybe this is the right place for them right now, given their record, but they seem to me like a better team on the whole than the number 6 slot. And they've got to go out and
they got to beat number 3 because they lost it to number 2 and they lost to number 4. So the only other, and no one's arguing number 1. The only teams ahead of them that you could argue are 3, which they play on Thanksgiving, and 5. And I'm giving 5 the spot only because this is a function of the bye, right? I could have moved Ledyard up to 5 and put East Lyme at 6. I mean, these are, this is not a disrespect thing. This is a function of the schedule and how it works.
Yeah.
Number 7, off of their bye, moving up a slot from number 8, the Stonington Bears, and the word to describe this team is mistreated. I mistreated you, Bears. I did. I went out and did a little examination. I did a little deeper dive. Who did Stonington play week 1, Peter? Do you remember?
Stonington played an alliance game.
WCA.
Yes.
Do you know what WCA's record is?
I don't.
They are 5-0.
Okay.
Do you know who they played in week 2?
We saw them lose to Waterford.
And Waterford is 4-1. They beat Wyndham handily. They beat New London in a close one. That New London win suddenly doesn't seem like such an easy thing when we re-examine New London. The next 3 games, Montville, Valley, and Bacon, is Stonington's opportunity to show what they are. They lost to 2 teams that are combined 9-1. Otherwise, they've handled their business. You know what? I might have mistreated you a little bit, Stonington, because you also might be a function of just an early 2 early season games against very good teams, and you've handled your business since. Does
this mean you're going to be wearing brown next week?
There's no chance of that, but I will be putting out there because our game of the week is Griswold and Bacon, and there's also the New London East Lyme game that's of some consequence, and we're gonna talk. Of course, there's the NFA Fitch game, but I'm gonna put my challenge out at the end. Stonington has Montville. It's a game they need to win, or else we're not gonna have this conversation. Back into the power rankings. The word is developing, and that is the New London High School Whalers. Why? Well, a 20-8 victory over Bacon Academy is first and foremost. But here are some other things about New London, similarly to what we just talked about. Who did they lose to? They lost to Berlin, who's one of the premier teams in the state. They lost to Killingley, who's one of the premier teams in the state, and they lost a very close game to Stonington. They beat Woodstock, and they beat Bacon. Also a team that is a function of its schedule. But here's some things to know about New London. 8 seniors, 5 juniors, 12 sophomores, and 10 freshmen. And almost all of those sophomores and freshmen are getting some run, including their starting quarterback, one of their number 1 receivers, and their running back. Now, you've heard me refer to him as Freak because that's his nickname. But Samir Maddox-Moore needs to be known for his name as well. And I also want to give a shout-out to the Maddox-Moore family because there's another Maddox-Moore over at NFA, my blessing. And these 2 young men are unbelievable football players and, by all accounts, really remarkable young men. And I actually saw a Facebook post where someone thanked their mom for being an unbelievable mom because they said, with all these power rankings and all these top 10s and all these plays, no one thinks to thank the mom. So you know what I am? I'm going to jump on that bandwagon and I'm going to thank the mom because, by all accounts, these are 2 remarkable young men. But that Bacon Academy game was an example of Bacon was probably head-to-toe a better team, but Maddox-Moore was the best player on the field. 75-yard touchdown return. They had a pick 6. Bacon would stop him for 2-3 plays. I mean, he was not. Everyone on the planet knows where the ball's going, and he's earned that nickname of Freak. There's a reason why. He might be the next great New London running back, which is that's a list to get on, and he might be in that conversation as he's only a sophomore, shouldering that load. So with a freshman quarterback, with Mello running the show and Freak as the back, and they've got some guys there. I think they're heading in the right direction. They are developing, but they're back in the thing. But now they got East Lyme. So you want to stay in that top 10, New London, you got to show up against East Lyme. You can't let this one get away from you. It doesn't mean you have to go out and win, although that's certainly an outcome that's possible. But that game has to be competitive to stay in that top 10. Dropping all the way from 2 to 9, the word is competent. And I think that aptly describes Coach Latiga's group at Bacon. They're a competent group. I've talked to other coaches. They're going to be in every game. I talked to coaches like, how's this Griswold game going to go? He's like, I expect it to be a competitive game because Bacon is competent. They have a lot of senior play. They've got a good, a 3-year quarterback in Riddick Burrows. They've got, a good, running back tandem with the Jinax and Lucian Dean. I mean, this is a good, they've got playmakers defensively. Caden King, Skip, you guys are all making plays, but they still aren't. They don't know how to win those games. That game, losing to New London off the bye. Now, Coach Latiga said, we were healthy. We were playing great. The bye kind of took the steam out of us. But this is a team that I think is going to compete every week. But to be 7-3 versus 5-5 is a function of finding ways to win. And Bacon isn't quite there yet. So why did they drop from 2 all the way to 9? Because they lost that game. And if they play Griswold this week. They're also playing Nonawag. They're also playing Stonington. Lots of opportunities to reascend.
And they're a part of that really interesting Division III group who are just starting to play one another. And so we'll find out a lot more because it's hard to speculate when it's an Alliance game or when it's Division III Bacon playing against Division I New London. When you're playing against those schools that you should be evenly matched with in your own division, I think that'll tell us a lot more.
Yeah. Now, at number 10, my apologies first to the Valley Panthers, who did nothing wrong, even had a nice article in the day about them, and are now dropping out of the power rankings simply because I am leaving NFA in at number 10 because they're stealthy. Maybe I have a bias here, but I still think the NFA's best football is ahead of them, and it starts this week with Fitch. That is a dangerous game for Fitch. NFA showed that they can stop the run physically against Xavier. They didn't show that they could do it against Ledyard. So which of these two teams shows up? I don't know. Valley is in a string right now where they're playing those same teams, right? All they got to do is win one and they'll be right back in the rankings. But for this week, I just feel like NFA is too talented and too good and at a point in their schedule where they're going to also get to show where they stack up against the rest of the ECC.
Yeah, and NFA is one of those teams that struggled a little bit in close games in the beginning of the season, had similar injury problems to a couple other schools, and seemed like maybe they're hitting their stride. Should be better than they were the first couple weeks. I would not want to see NFA coming up on my schedule.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. So here's the offer I'm making to two different teams. And no one has to give me anything because if either of you win, I already own clothing in both of these two things. If New London shows up and can beat that East Lyme team, I will have a Whaler green and gold on next week when I do this because that's a win that shows that they really are not evolving, but they really are developing. That's a developmental win. Similarly, if Bacon Academy goes on the road and beats the number 2 team that I think is really, really good, who's scary, Griswold, I will have a Bacon Academy shirt on when we do these rankings because I think Bacon, and this is no disrespect to them, but I do think they're punching a little bit out of their weight class against Griswold, and I think they can win that game. But this is one where they have to play a completely clean sheet and maybe get a mistake on Griswold's part because I think that it's a lot to ask. That Griswold team is really talented. So those are my 2 challenges. Lastly, I shouldn't have to do this, but I feel like it's incumbent upon me to do this. Since I specifically cited the Maddox Moore's mom, I should say anybody in that family. Congratulations, because you've raised 2 good kids. All of our families out there communicate to us, and they reach out and stuff. And I just want to say that it's been really a lot of joy to see some of these young kids starting to develop in their sports. It's really great. We are going to be turning the page soon from football for a little while to go to the championships of soccer and volleyball. And we should not forget, and I will be doing a pre-tournament power rankings for soccer and volleyball. We shouldn't forget that the East Lyme boys team, undefeated and has only 1 goal scored against them. And do you know what team scored that goal against them?
I do not.
Bacon Academy.
I shouldn't have been surprised.
And the Bacon Academy girls also undefeated, ranked number 1 in the small medium. So there are some state championship teams, but Killingly, Ledyard, lots of teams on the boys' side that are very talented. Montville girls in Division II, very good. Like, I think we're going to see Bacon girls and East Lyme boys, and then the other teams are going to be very fascinating to see who gets there. So I'm looking forward to that. Volleyball's wide open. A lot of very good teams in volleyball on both the Division I and the Division II side. East Lyme, of course, very good. Ledyard, very good. Killingly having a very good year. So that's going to be a great week. I always love championship week.
And to be fair, I think in seasons past, there have been teams that we were sure were a lock to make the finals, and they didn't make it. And that's kind of what makes these conference tournaments so much fun.
100%. I mean, right now it's easy to put East Lyme's boys in the final or put Bacon's girls in the final, right? That's what we have seen. Teams like that get upset in the tournament. We've seen them get upset in the tournament, go on and win state tournaments.
Yes.
So, that's what makes it really fun. From a football standpoint, this week, Bacon Academy at Griswold, live on game day Friday night, 6:15, 6:30 start time for that game. Then, just so everyone understands, we will be off of football for 2 weeks because we will have the championship week, 2 soccer girls, 2 soccer boys, two volleyball girls. And then we'll be back with a football game that is yet to be announced, but we will be announcing that one next week. We'll let everybody know where we're going to go. That was on the schedule as a potential West Haven-Fitch game, a potential Griswold-Stonington game, a potential. So there's different places we might go. We're going to have to take a look.
You going to wear that the rest of the day?
No, I'm going to take this off the second the video is over when I have fulfilled my obligation to the people in Waterford. Hey, Lancer Nation! That's a great win. I'm true to my word. I will not be wearing this again. And anyone that thinks I look good in blue,